sometimes people in the carnivore community make it seem like it's easy to break sugar addiction and to stop eating sugar, but it's really not. Hello my friends, my name is Rachel and I have been doing the carnivore way of eating for 10 months now, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about sugar addiction and carb addiction and how I overcame that in my own journey, and just some tips and tricks if that's something that you're wanting to overcome yourself or that you're kind of in the midst of overcoming right now. So doing the carnivore diet, it's essentially a zero carb diet, and so obviously sugar is not a part of the carnivore diet, and I've been very strict about the carnivore diet just because I really want to give my body the best chance possible to heal from years of severe chronic illness. So something that I have found really interesting during this journey of really changing the way that I eat is just now kind of observing others from the outside in. I can really see how strong the sugar addiction runs in our society and in our world. Our world really revolves around food, and people are very addicted to sugar and to carbs, and it's something that I really didn't give much thought to growing up and before I started this way of eating, but now looking back I can see that I was addicted to sugar and carbs, and signs of that are, you know, if something good happens, then you say, oh, I have to celebrate with an ice cream. Or if you're sad, then you say, I have to go comfort myself with an ice cream, because you're craving that hit that you get from eating sugar and that quick 5-minute happiness or less that you get from eating sugar. And it's something that is very addictive. And looking back, I never really considered myself to be like a sugar addict or a carb addict, but I definitely was. And honestly, I think everybody is, unless they've taken the steps to break that addiction. Even just like observing kids and how they'll do anything to get, you know, that ice cream, or they'll have a meltdown if they don't have, you know, their dessert after dinner. And it's just really an interesting thing to observe, and it's something that's difficult to break. And I think sometimes people in the carnivore community make it seem like it's easy to break sugar addiction and to stop eating sugar, but it's really not. So for me in my own journey, my biggest motivator in cutting out sugar has been to try to give my body the best possible chance to heal and the best possible chance to be healthy and to be well. And I think in a way, even though my situation has been very extreme and I went from bedbound to now I'm healing, and diet was a big part of that for me, but I came from such a desperate place that I was willing to do literally anything to get well. And most people are not in that like dire or severe of situation as I was in. So I feel like in a way that was a blessing for me, in that like I had a very strong motivation to quit eating sugar and processed foods and to really give my body the best chance to heal. I think for people that are generally healthy, it's actually harder to cut that sugar addiction. And something for me in my own journey was that I was so sick that I wasn't even going out and socializing. I wasn't able to go out and hang out with friends often at all. I was willing to do anything. Like I would have eaten dirt if that was going to heal me. And at the time I actually was like struggling to eat, and so it, you know, that was another thing that I guess in a way oddly made it a little bit easier, except for that a lot of times the symptoms that I was having, nausea and whatnot, I really just wanted things like plain rice, which obviously had carbs in it. And so transitioning to the carnivore diet really was a difficult thing for me, and I think it's a difficult thing for a lot of people. There's often, you know, low carb flu, you have withdrawals from sugar addiction, you have sugar cravings. It's hard. When I started the carnivore diet at the time, my husband and I were living at my parents' house, and my mom had made Mexican food, and it was all sorts of, you know, tortilla chips and tortillas, tacos, and that was my favorite food. And I just smelled it. I started crying. Like, I wanted it so bad. And I was embarrassed because I was really trying to stay strong and was doing a good job of like not letting it get to me, but it was like one of those moments where I just was like, oh my gosh, like I want that so bad. It smells so good. And I think a lot of people, especially in the beginning of the carnivore diet, really struggle with that if they're around other people eating carbs and sugar and desserts, and it's a hard thing. Like, it's not easy. It's not easy to say no. And I'm to a point in my journey where, you know, I'm 10 months completely sugar and carb free, and if I'm around somebody that's eating, you know, a dessert or bread or whatever it may be, like, I still think to myself, that looks really good. Like, and I remember what it felt like to eat that and like how good it tasted. And but it's not that like burning desire of like I need to have those carbs, and so it feels really good to have overcome that addiction. And so for me, I'm totally fine watching other people eat sugar and carbs and bread and whatever it may be, but I do remember how good it tastes, and I do remember that I liked it. And so I think just observing that in myself has really shown me how addicted we really are to sugar and carbs. And really my biggest tips for you guys in overcoming that addiction is to increase your animal fats. That can really help curb sugar cravings, increase your salts, eating really salty things. In the beginning, when I would experience some sugar cravings, I would sometimes just put salt on my tongue. That would help. But the biggest thing always for me is that motivation of wanting to be the healthiest I can possibly be and live the best life that I can possibly live. Because when you've been so sick, you really realize that food just doesn't matter. Like, in comparison to real life experiences, relationships, getting to go out and do things with your family and friends, food really just doesn't matter. It just feels really good to be free of that addiction and just food addiction in general. Like, I don't feel addicted to meat. Like, it's what I need to sustain my body and keep me healthy, but you know, it's not like that same mechanism where like I need it. And I'm able to skip a meal and be just fine too, which is great. With this way of eating, not having the highs and lows of blood sugar that comes with eating a lot of carbs and sugar. Obviously the transition can be tough. It can be months long, coming off of carbs, but it's so worth it. It helps people live their best lives, and it helps people to get over that addiction and kind of be free of that. And yeah, it feels good to be able to say no so easily. And if you're struggling with this right now, please be kind to yourself. It's a hard thing. And I know a lot of people make it look like it's easy, but it's not. I'm always going to be honest with you guys, and I'm not going to, you know, claim that this way of eating is easy. It's hard, especially in social situations, especially just with our culture of food being so central to social gatherings. And I just want to encourage you guys, if you are struggling with carb cravings, remember your why. That's my biggest piece of advice, is to remember that temporary happiness that you get from eating ice cream or pizza or whatever it may be is very temporary and fleeting, and often it'll make you feel bad. So it's really just not worth that few minutes of getting to taste your favorite food, having to feel the physical consequences of that. Health is everything. It's something I have learned along the way, and if that means having to change way of eating, it's worth it. And just know that I'm cheering you guys on and rooting for you, and you can do this. So if you have any other tips for overcoming sugar cravings or carb cravings, leave them in the comments down below, and make sure to subscribe and follow along. I have lots of videos coming out soon, just sharing my healing journey and all things carnivore related. So hope you guys are having a good day, and I will look forward to seeing you again really soon.